Imagine asking for a song about the night you left home. 90 seconds long, played on a glass harmonica and a synthesizer that never existed. No searching, no artist to discover. Seconds later, the song begins, made for an audience of one. Now multiply that moment by 1 billion listeners. Music has always connected strangers through the same recording. But if each of us can generate the perfect private soundtrack, do we become creators? Or do we stop being an audience at all? This is no longer only a thought experiment. In April 2026, Deezer said its detection system was identifying roughly 75,000 fully AI-generated tracks arriving every day. That was 44% of the music delivered to one platform. But here is the first surprise. Deezer said those tracks produced only 1 to 3% of listening. Supply has exploded. Human attention has not followed at the same speed. So this is not a film about the day computers suddenly replace musicians. It is about something stranger. The moment listening itself becomes a form of production. And the music business has to decide what a song is worth when another version can be made almost instantly. For most of the history of recorded music, the direction was clear. An artist wrote or performed. A studio captured the performance. A label financed, manufactured, marketed, and distributed it. Radio, shops, television, and later streaming platforms carried it outward. The rest of us listened. That system was never simple or fair. Many brilliant musicians were ignored. Many successful records were shaped by armies of songwriters, producers, engineers, session players, executives, and promoters. But the finished recording was fixed. Frank Sinatra did not rewrite a verse because one listener had a difficult morning. A Beatles album did not change tempo when someone started running. The limitation created power. A relatively small number of recordings could fill radios, record shops, charts, clubs, weddings, and bedrooms. Millions of people learned the same chorus. A song could become a timestamp. Where you were, who you loved, what your generation feared. The business grew around that shared object. Labels owned or licensed recordings. Publishers controlled compositions. Stars turned songs into identity. Concerts transformed private listening into public ritual. Catalogs became assets that could be bought and sold because the same work could keep attracting attention for decades. Then streaming removed the shelf. Almost every song could sit beside every other song. Scarcity moved from distribution to attention. Platforms did not need to choose what could physically fit in a store. They needed to predict what each person might play next. Generative AI introduces a second removal of scarcity. It does not merely offer every existing song. It offers the possibility of a new song whenever you ask. The old system was a broadcast, one work traveling toward many listeners. The new system could become a loop. One listener describes, the machine generates, the listener corrects, and the music changes again. That loop is the philosophical break. The listener is no longer only choosing among other people's decisions. The listener is directing the next decision. Consider what this means for someone who has never played an instrument. She can describe a song for her father's birthday, built from a family joke and the rhythm of an old train. A game designer can request 3 minutes of tension that becomes calmer whenever a player reaches safety. A runner can ask for a track that peaks at the exact minute of the final hill. A filmmaker can sketch a score before hiring a composer. A child can hear a melody imagined in words. None of these people has suddenly acquired a lifetime of harmony, orchestration, performance, and engineering. A prompt is not the same thing as craft, but the distance between an idea and audible material has collapsed. Consumer services such as Suno and Udio already let users create and revise songs with ordinary language. Their rules matter. Suno says songs made on a paid plan receive commercial use rights under its terms, while free plan songs are non-commercial and remain owned by Suno. That contract does not answer every copyright question. It simply shows that Generation is already being packaged as a consumer product, with different rights attached to different subscriptions. Meanwhile, the largest listening platforms are teaching audiences to express musical intent. Spotify's AI playlist accepts descriptions and builds a playlist. Spotify DJ selects music and comments on it. YouTube Music's Ask Music turns a description into personalized radio. Deezer's Flow Tuner lets listeners shape recommendations. These systems mostly choose from existing catalogs. They do not yet prove that Spotify or YouTube is composing a unique replacement for every song. That distinction matters. Recommendation asks, which finished track fits you? Generation asks, why use a finished track at all? The two systems are moving toward each other. One knows your history, context, and habits. The other can synthesize new material. If they converge, searching for music could feel as old-fashioned as waiting for a radio station to play your request. That would be a genuine democratization. A person locked out by cost, disability, training, geography, or fear could participate in musical expression. Ideas that once died in someone's head could become audible. But abundance creates its own trap. If the first version is imperfect, ask for another. If the chorus becomes familiar, generate a replacement. If a song asks for patience, skip to a version that rewards you immediately. The problem is no longer getting music. The problem is deciding when anything deserves to last. Imagine two musical futures. In the first, AI becomes invisible infrastructure. It scores workouts, games, sleep, stores, videos, and private memories. Much of this music is functional and temporary. It works, then disappears. Human artists still release songs, people still form bands, and concerts still fill arenas. Personal generation occupies the moments when identity matters less than fit. In the second future, personalization becomes the default. Every listener hears a different chorus, a different voice, perhaps a song that changes with heart rate and location. Charts begin to measure templates, models, or musical worlds instead of fixed recordings. The mass audience breaks into millions of private rooms. Neither future is established fact. Recommendation research warns that personalization can reduce diversity or trap attention, but the effect depends on what the system optimizes. Some algorithms make different users more alike. Others narrow each person's range. Systems can also be designed to increase discovery. The algorithm did it is not an explanation. The objective chosen by a platform is part of the cause. And listeners do not use music only as customized sound. We use it to recognize one another. A stadium chorus matters because the person beside you knows it too. A wedding song carries history because it already lived in other lives. A protest song coordinates bodies and words. A teenager chooses an artist partly to join, or reject, a tribe. Personal music can match a mood with extraordinary precision. But perfect fit may remove the encounter with another person's intention. It may give us exactly what we asked for, and nothing we did not know to ask. Research suggests that authorship itself changes perception. In two pre-registered studies published in 2026, people imagined fewer and less engaging stories when they believed music was composed by AI. In the second study, the label mattered regardless of whether the underlying piece was actually composed by a human or by AI. That does not prove AI music has no emotion. Listeners can respond emotionally to synthetic work. and other experiments find mixed preferences depending on genre, purpose, labels, and personal attitudes. The finding is more interesting than a contest over sound quality. Believing there is a mind behind the music can become part of the music. This may be the survival advantage of human artists. Not imperfection by itself. Not nostalgia. A known life gives a song direction. We hear the risk someone took, the place they came from, the person they addressed, and the fact that they could have chosen differently. But human identity can also be simulated. And that is where the cultural question becomes an economic war. An AI song can involve several different layers of rights. There is the composition, melody, harmony, and lyrics. There is the sound recording. There may be a recognizable voice or likeness. There is the material used to train a model. And there are the user's instructions, edits, selections, and arrangement. Those layers do not automatically belong to one person. The United States Copyright Office says using AI does not prevent copyright protection. What matters is human authorship. A person can protect expressive elements they created, selected, arranged, or modified. But prompts alone generally do not give enough control over the expressive result. Training is a separate legal fight. Record companies sued Suno and Udio in 2024, alleging mass infringement. Those complaints were allegations, not final court findings. The Copyright Office has also emphasized that training questions depend on specific facts, licenses, markets, and legal tests. There is no honest one-sentence rule that makes every training use legal or illegal. Voice creates another problem. Copyright does not simply grant ownership of a general singing style, but copying an identifiable voice can raise publicity, impersonation, consumer protection, contract, and digital replica issues. Tennessee enacted the Elvis Act to add voice to protected personal rights. The U.S. Copyright Office recommended a federal digital replica law. A federal no-fakes proposal has been introduced, but as of this research, it is a bill, not national law. The industry's response has already changed direction. In 2024, major record companies went to court. In late 2025, Warner Music Group announced settlements and licensed partnerships with both Udio and Suno. The plans describe authorized music, artist opt-in for identity and voice, and new revenue opportunities. Universal Music Group and Sound Labs have also described artist-controlled voice models trained on the artist's own data. The conflict is not disappearing. It is becoming a market. If finished recordings become abundant, labels may not vanish. They control catalogs, contracts, famous names, trusted relationships, and the ability to grant permission at scale. Those assets may become the premium ingredients of license generation. An artist of the future might still release a definitive song, but that song could be only the center of a larger system. An approved voice model, fan remix permissions, interactive versions, virtual performance, private community, live events, and a verified trail showing what is human, what is generated, and who gets paid. Platforms could change too. Today, they compete to recommend the best recording. Tomorrow, they may compete to generate the best experience while proving that the voice, catalog, and training data were authorized. That makes provenance a product. A listener may choose between an anonymous synthetic track, a verified human recording, and an adaptive version officially licensed by an artist. The sound might be similar. The story, permission, and economic meaning would not be. The numbers reveal why control matters. Spotify says it paid the music industry $11 billion in 2025, though industry payouts are not the same as an individual artist's income. SciSac, representing creators, commissioned a study forecasting that 24% of music creators' revenue could be at risk by 2028 under its assumptions. That is a warning scenario, not a measured future. At the same time, Deezer says fully AI-generated music receives only a small share of listening, and that much of the detected activity around it is fraudulent. Spotify says it removed more than 75 million spammy tracks in 1 year, but those tracks were spam, not necessarily AI. The immediate enemy may not be a brilliant artificial superstar. It may be automated abundance designed to capture fractions of attention and royalties. Here is the strongest case for this technology. Music should not belong only to people who can afford lessons, instruments, studios, collaborators, or years of technical practice. A person with an idea should be able to hear it. A patient who cannot perform should be able to shape sound. A small game should have an adaptive score. A family should be able to turn a memory into a song. Professional musicians should be able to explore faster, cross languages, and create tools around their own voices on their own terms. Generative AI can expand participation without erasing expertise. Cameras did not eliminate painting. Synthesizers did not eliminate acoustic instruments. Home studios did not eliminate great producers. New tools change what skill means. Then humans build new skill around them. Now, the strongest case against it. Music is not only the arrangement of pleasing frequencies. It is labor, intention, history, and social memory. A system trained without permission can extract value from people who cannot bargain. A cloned voice can separate identity from consent. Infinite cheap output can bury work that required time, risk, and human collaboration. Perfect personalization can reduce the accidents through which taste grows. Most importantly, culture cannot be personalized all the way down. A private song can comfort you. It can even become precious. But a song heard by only one person cannot be the song a city sings after a victory, the track strangers dance to at a wedding, or the recording a generation uses to remember a year. Culture requires overlap. The public already seems to understand this tension. In a 2023 IFPI survey of more than 43,000 people across 26 countries, 79% said human creativity remains essential to music. 76% said an artist's music or vocals should not be used by AI without permission. Because IFPI represents the recording industry and attitudes can change, those numbers are not a universal verdict. They are evidence that convenience has not erased concern about the human source. Perhaps the future does not choose between human music and machine music. It divides listening by purpose. We may generate disposable sound for concentration, games, exercise, or a private joke. We may seek human artists when we want witness, identity, surprise, and community. And between those poles, licensed systems may let fans enter an artist's world without pretending to become the artist. The winners will not automatically be the best musicians or the biggest AI companies. Power may go to whoever controls discovery, trusted identity, rights data, and the interface where a listener describes desire. That is why the end of the audience is not inevitable. It is a design choice, a business choice, and finally, a human choice. Return to that first listener. The machine has produced a song about the night she left home. It fits the memory exactly. Maybe she cries. The emotion is real because her memory is real. But tomorrow, she may still play a song made by someone she has never met. Someone who describes a feeling she could not name. She may send it to a friend. Years later, they may hear it again and remember each other. AI can make music for an audience of one. Only people can decide to make that music part of a world. So the deepest question is not whether machines will become musicians. It is whether listeners will still choose to listen together. And if songs become nearly infinite, the next battle will be over what remains scarce: ownership, identity, and trust. That is the story behind the world's largest music fortunes, and the film to watch next.